Bam, we're live. Modern Relics Podcast. I'm Angel. He's Lucky. What's up? Welcome back.
How's
Happy
it
New Year,
going?
man.
Happy New Year to you, sir.
It looks like you've moved, but you haven't moved. You've created
I
a
have not.
studio.
We've-
Talk to me. This looks incredible.
Well, it's not entirely finished yet.
It's like the
but
Death Star. It's not fully operational.
Yes,
Okay.
not fully operational. I will take out Endor if need be. But,
Okay.
but it is something that actually are gifts for my wife for Christmas.
Nice.
I'm sitting at a new table, which
Nice.
is all like now designed for all the wiring and everything, which is really nice. It's a smaller footprint too, so
Mhm.
it's not like one of those card tables that's kind of stretched out. We got some sound kind of buffering stuff for the background, as you can see,
Yeah.
and some fun lighting, and but we got more of the soundproofing stuff, so it'll take up the entirety of the wall. If you see some gaps, like right here,
Nice.
like right here and right there, and then it's above me and a little below me, we got a whole new pack to basically take up that whole wall. So I hope it improves the sound quite a bit. But
yeah, I hate the act of moving my office around, but I like it when it's like done, when I have like a new model concept, because I've like rearranged this room 4 or 5 times since I've moved into it. But I love that. New studio day is a great day.
Yeah, it feels really nice. Everything's set up ergonomically and it's great. She's the techie one, so she had a blast doing all this. I just enjoy the fruits of her labors. But yeah, no, it's great. I'm really happy with the lighting and with the look. You know, it's just more aesthetically pleasing, and just, I don't know, just overall, I hope that the sound quality is a little better in here.
Mhm.
We do have all, like, the bookshelves do absorb some of it,
Yeah.
because I've got bookshelves here, and then this on this wall. So I don't know. Hopefully, we'll fine tune everything as we go on. But I mean, this is for us and me specifically. It's much more of a learning process since
Mhm.
I'm technologically kind of inept. But
no, it kind of harkens back to the old band practice days, because the best thing you could do is hang rugs, basically, to like kill the reverb and stuff. But those panels are sick. I have a couple of them in this room, but my ceilings are so tall, I would have to like paint like the wall and the ceiling with a lot of those sound deadening things, and I intend to figure that out. But you start to chew into all the fun stuff you want to hang on the walls too and stuff. So when I started getting these posters put up, I kind of like diminished doing the soundproofing part of it, and you know, it's push pull. But one of these days I'll get back to it. So, but happy New Year! I hope you had a Merry Christmas, man. How was your?
I did.
How did it go?
It went smoother than, well, backtrack. We were supposed to have a pretty mellow Christmas.
Sure.
It was supposed to be just the 4 of us and then my mom. And then we have a family that are dear friends of ours, and their 3 young children who are under the age of 13. They are our godchildren. And so they have recently moved into a neighborhood with like 2 other close families from church.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like right next door to both of them. So we figured, and they have kids their same age and stuff. So we figured they'll probably be doing something with one of those 2 families or both. And but I hit him up anyway and said, hey, I just thought I'd reach out and see if you guys wanted to do anything for Christmas dinner. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. And we're like, oh, okay, well, add 5 more. So 5 went to 10. And then my mom hit me up and said, hey, your sister doesn't do anything on Christmas dinner. She only does a brunch thing. So you should invite her. And I was like, yeah, she'll probably say no, but that's okay. Like, I'll at least extend the invite. So I do that. And she goes, yeah, absolutely. What do you want us to bring? Add 5 more. So that's her husband, and her 3 kids.
Nice.
So now we're up to 15. And then my sister hits me up. She goes, hey, my best friend Laura and her 2 kids, or my best friend Janelle and her 2 kids, they don't have any place to go. Would you mind if they came with us? And I was like, guess we're at 15 now. Might as well, like,
bring them on.
And so 5 turned into 18, and we ended up smoking a like 12-pound spiral ham and a 12-pound prime rib, and they both came out perfect.
See,
I'm
glad we got the big smoker. That's one of those things where I'm like, if I could do this over again, I would get a dedicated larger cook bed so I could do things like a brisket or something larger than a 4-pound piece of meat kind of thing. So that's awesome. So like,
dude, it turned out so good. Like, and both of them. And so one of the things I had gotten earlier that morning, which I think you should look into. Sure. Well, you may not need to because of location, but because of where I live, they make, for these brands, they make insulators, like an insulator blanket.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That basically goes over, and it keeps, like, in colder times of year, it actually keeps the heat compressed in there. And man, it took a 5-hour cook and took it down to 3.5 hours.
Yeah,
we were done earlier than we should have been.
Yeah,
but
if it's not December, January, or February, I don't have that problem at all. I have the opposite problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
From March forward, it's like, oh, the ambient temperature in here is 107, and I haven't even turned it on yet.
You're just already
add 3 figures of exactly. It's yeah.
And then I got a new cover for it too.
Yeah.
So that way it protects it from all the elements and everything like that.
I need to get a new cover. I got the Pro Series cover on mine. It's phenomenal. The sun ate most of it, as the sun eats everything down here. So I was like, oh, it lasted 2 years. That's actually better than I thought, but that's great. Yeah, covers are nice.
So got those, and so that worked out really well. And yeah, we had a good Christmas. The kids got a bunch of cool stuff. And I got a ton of cool stuff. My wife got a ton of cool stuff. I still have 2 presents that haven't made it here yet for my wife that I'm kind of like pissed about. Like, where are they? They should have been here. But outside of that,
how did the Fitbit go over? Because I know that was one I was here for.
Yeah, that went over
really well. Is that the right one? Okay.
It was exactly the right one.
Nice.
So turned out perfect. She put it on immediately, set all her settings, and it hasn't come off her since. So, but yeah, I also got and dude, I'll have to send you a picture because I totally forgot about this. She got me this meat knife that's like one of a Viking meat knife that's like this big. You know, it's like crazy big. It's got a wooden handle, came in like a fine box and everything. It's like some from Viking.
Something where a spokesperson company screams at you for not skipping leg day, and you're like, yes, that's the knife I want.
Right. It's the one that they always show like in the videos you scroll through where the guy's out in the woods cooking on a rock.
Yeah,
it's like that. And dude, I'm telling you, bone in, bone in that 11-pound prime with the bone in, it was like cutting through butter. It was just like, went all the way through. And I was like, oh, and it came with a sharpener and everything. And it's pretty awesome. I'll send you a picture.
Dude, nice.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I got some good loot this year. I got a cool jacket. I got a minor league baseball hat that I've been after for a long time. From team? The Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Yeah.
So so I have a 5950 New Era flat bill with it's their Prime logo where the raccoon is like jumping like out of a trash can, but the trash can itself is the rocket ship and he's holding the lid and stuff. It's pretty awesome. I got some cool boots that I need for range day because I'm prone to rolling my ankle a lot in those all conditions gears hikers that I have. So got some larger boots for that. And I finally, at 40 years old, became an adult. I got a Costco membership for 1 year. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm scared to go in and like turn it on because the parking lot is tough. And most of the times that I'm away from work are on the weekends. So because I have tomorrow and the next day off, going into the weekend, I may find some time to go do that.
The Costco parking lot is typically like the scene where they're quarantining a city and they're trying to let only particular groups out.
It's a hellscape. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like all cordoned off and people are just screaming and like that's the Costco parking lot typically.
Well, I drove by it. I was like, well, dip a toe in the water and just see. And there was like a line of cars on the road, like stacking up. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. And then I like round the corner and I get in I'm not trying to turn anywhere lane and just kept on going. And I'm driving alongside this line of cars. All of them were trying to get into Costco on a Sunday. And I was like, oh no, that's terrible. But then I realized it's end of the year. It's end of the month. Like anyone that's on a fixed income is probably going to Costco at this point in time to either, boost up or whatever. Plus it's right between holidays and shit. So I was like, this is probably not a good idea. But I did get one of those, so I feel like I'm finally an adult and can go spend frivolous amounts of money on Costco things.
I'm trying to as far they've got cool stuff there that I think would, but as far as like groceries, I'm having a hard time. Well, I don't know. You're really good at like portioning off things and cooking it throughout the week.
But that's why I've stayed away from Costco. Is exactly that. It's like, look, I'm gonna buy a ton of perishable food that I can't eat through. That it's going to go bad. So I don't need a Costco membership. And then every single time it's like, oh, but there's this GoPro bundle at Costco, or there's this tires at Costco, or, in my case, I need to get a shed for the backyard. They sell those kinds of things. There's like, I'm scared and excited that I finally have reached an echelon of society in the social order where I can participate in the Costco experience. And I suppose if I'm dead broke or whatever, I just go there and raid all the sample stands on the weekends for foraging for meals, and then just leave, because you can just do that once you're a member. we're still putting together the attack pattern for this Costco thing. But then what else did I get? I'm probably forgetting some stuff, but it was good. It was good to see some friends and family. I had a big present planned for my dad, which went over really well. He was really excited. It was, however,
those pictures were great. They did not shy away from, like, you really captured his true, honest response in that, and it was fantastic. That was really cool, and that was exactly what we were hoping for.
Yeah,
and that was really cool.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I got to walk him through a bunch of videos I made on my phone of like each step of the process and the build and stuff that I'd been kind of documenting. I wanted to put together a video, but I just didn't have time. So that was the good part. The bad part was, a responsible person does not go grocery shopping when they're going to be leaving the house for a week, right? Because everything's going to go bad. So I'm like,
That's the adult thing to do.
Not going to do these things. I will forego eating today, and because I had like little things to chew on. It wasn't like I was starving. Like, I'll forgo eating today, and I'll grab something at the airport on the way out, because I had a lot of logistics to manage. And
the Vegas, to be fair, the Vegas airport has a lot of good food in it.
A lot of good stuff. Lots of good stuff. Yeah. So I opted with a Quiznos sandwich, and then off I went.
Solid choice.
Yep. I went to...
I'm a Quiznos guy.
Went to the gate, got on the plane, landed, and I collected all my things. I was picked up, and as soon as I got in the car, I was like, man, my stomach hurts. I swallowed a corkscrew for a wine bottle. Like, it just hurt.
Oh.
I was like, something's not right. And so anyway, end up at the landing spot and unpack all my stuff. And I'm going, yeah, something's not right. Like, I feel fine, but something's not. Raw! Just Exorcist style. Oh my God. I became a human fountain. Like, not to make things too grotesque, but it was not a good look. And I lived in the bathroom for several hours, and I was like, this is going from bad to worse. Now I'm starting to get like a fever, like often like a mild fever, and that's bad news for me. When I get a fever, things start to really shut down. So I'm trying to sip on water, and that's instantly coming back up. It's like, have you ever smelling salts? Have you ever smelled smelling salts and you get that instant like snap reaction of like ammonia bad? This is, I'm awake now. That's what it was like. As soon as I would drink water, my stomach would flip and it would come right back out. And there was stuff coming up that I thought I'd eaten at school lunch in elementary school. Like, I didn't know what was going on, but it got really bad. And I could feel myself dehydrating. Yeah. Like, this is also not a good thing. So one thing leads to the next. I'm like, I'm going to try and sleep this, just lay down, sleep it off. Mind you, Monday morning, because I landed Sunday night, I have lots of work meetings and people breaking plans to drive into the corporate office for some of my time because I'm not in Seattle every day. You know what I mean?
Right.
So from midnight to 3 a.m., I'm just up every 10 minutes, just fountaining. It's like horrible. So at 3 a.m., I log in and I start canceling meetings and trying to reach out to people. Like, if you get this first thing, please don't drive to the office. I'm very, very ill. I don't know what's going on. I do have a fever. Like, so end up checking into the ER a few hours into the day. And I'm driven to, because I got to figure out who's in network for my insurance, right? So I'm driven to an urgent care clinic, and the doctor had stepped out because it was like the Christmas holiday, right. Like 2 hours ahead of schedule or something. So they're like, go to this other one because there's no doctor here for you. Like, okay. So get carted off to another urgent care clinic, and they're like, yes, we're technically in urgent care, but we only deal with workplace injuries, so we're not for you. Which led me to, it's like, then why does it say urgent care on the door? So right. To the ER we go. I get admitted into the ER, and everybody there, we were talking about this a little bit, but every single person, the administrator at the door, the check-in nurse that does the vitals, the nurse that sets you in the room, the doctor, the 2 nurses after that, all of them independently asked me like if I had traveled from somewhere exotic, because they were concerned that I like brought some bazooka flu from South America or some shit that no one knew how to handle, you know. I'm like, no, like I had a Quiznos sandwich that just kept coming back to Quiznos.
I had a tasty toasted sub.
Yeah. I had a small Italian with a Sprite and some Sun Chips. That was, but for like 2 days, that's all I had. So that had to be it. It was bad. It was super bad. So several IV bags, shots, anti-nausea medication, which also makes you dizzy. And because dizziness was on the docket when I got there and it was pretty bad, they instantly scheduled an EKG. And I don't think I'm going into heart failure. Probably good we check, but that's going to cost a shitload of money whenever that bill comes in. And I'm like, for food poisoning, but at least they covered their bases. So then came the can't eat, can't drink, now have to drive to Central Washington in a rental car for a 5-hour trip while I'm intermittently exploding. Not a good look. Do Christmas with Dad, had Christmas dinner. I didn't eat anything. And one of his girlfriend's kids, like their husband was full on suffering from the flu. Like they had drove up from New Mexico or whatever, and he's full sick. So the person I was with got very sick on the way home, and now there's 2 people driving a car, one with a full-blown like ear infection, flu, and the other one with stomach turning inside out. It was brutal. And then get back, take rental car back, get back to airport, fly home, and it's just, I'm just dealing with fatigue. We're a week and a day after I got sick or whatever, right. And I'm fine. Everything's back to normal. I'm hydrated again, but it's just residual fatigue from like, I don't think I slept more than 6 or 7 hours the whole week. Like, it was just, it was brutal. So I'm glad we got to make Christmas happen for my dad. And it was great for that, but it was like the worst physical. I've never experienced anything like that. Like I've had food poisoning before where you're like a day out, you're like, oh, you know, probably shouldn't have eaten that or whatever. And you kind of iron stomach it through, or, you know, maybe it passes after a few hours. This was like, I don't know. Hard to explain, but it was the worst thing I'd gone through in a while. So don't recommend that. So yeah, airport food. Maybe I'll guess again. Maybe I'll think twice next time.
I always look forward to eating in the airport because they have so many options.
Yeah, they got shit that's nowhere else. And you're like, oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, not on this day, apparently.
That's wild. And yeah, that was the last place I ate at. I got myself a toasted sub from Quiznos, which I'm a fan of. That's a bummer. I don't think I'll swear off Quiznos for good, but I'll definitely probably hesitate.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was
success story through adversity.
Yeah.
You still got the mission completed, even with all the hurdles.
It was an act of willpower and perseverance for sure to make that work. Because I was like, I was ready to give up and try again next year, man. Just like, nope.
You sent me a picture of yourself in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wait, what? And I'm showing the kids and Aaron. I was like, yeah, Uncle Angel had a great holiday.
It was awesome. Yeah. I was like trying to get people to place bets on what foodborne illness I picked up. Like, I mean, we don't know. It could have been E. coli. I don't know what the fuck I caught, but it was like, it was bad. It was very bad. And it happened quick. I mean, like, I don't have an immune system as it is. So when things are bad, they usually go from bad to worse very quickly. But there's just no stopping it. It was a immovable tide of illness that just, I was swept up in it. It was bad.
Wow. Well, bummer, but I'm glad you're doing okay.
Thanks. And here's to a new year, man. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I know we're doing this a little earlier than we thought, but it turns out I'm going to have some friends that are coming here to celebrate New Year's and just chill, which is great because I like to entertain.
And I've got errands to run.
Yeah.
Specifically, trying to ship a giant painting to your house, which unfortunately has become more problematic than I had anticipated, but or costly, therefore, actually is more the case. But yeah, I'll get it to you. We'll make miracles happen. If I have to buy another plane ticket and give it its own seat on the way down there.
Well, honestly, I was thinking like it could be a Christmas in July, and next time you guys do a drive down, even if it's just you and the wife, if you can't get the kids together. But if it's too big for the car.
Well, that's one thing, yeah. But I mean, I can keep it in the car, but with nothing else. But no, it's too cool. I did a really good job on this, and I'm really excited for you to get it.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm actually trying to figure out how I can get prints made of it because
no way, really.
Yeah. So, but I'll get it down to you as quickly as possible.
We'll figure it out. I did want to note to the avid listeners and watchers, specifically you watchers of this podcast, the first topic I wrote down is that I can prove the news is fake. We got our very first takedown of this channel on YouTube. And I reviewed all the stuff. We didn't break. Are you
serious?
No, yeah. We didn't get any strikes or anything that's like detrimental, but it's like you can either come fix all the parts that are copywritten and repost it with no audio or video in chunks. You can leave it as is without monetization, but we could put a strike on it, or you can just take it down entirely, which I took it down entirely. But it comes from the YouTube video that we did that was the 7 hours long presidential election night.
Really?
And 14 independent strikes against that video. And I was like, well, let's review them, because as a content creator, you have the right to review those. Every single one of them was gibberish corporation from Russia. Every single one of them was gibberish corporation from Russia. And it had to do with either the substrate music that was playing behind the Fox newscast, or it was the cutaway to the on location where the camera crew had been doing raw footage in the background of our conversation the whole fucking time. And I'm like, that's a 7.5 hour video. And if you're wondering if you got through it and wanted to come back to it as to why it was taken down, I took it down because I don't want to fight. I mean, that would take me a month to edit that, and it would be such an incoherent conversation that it's one of those now situations where you kind of had to be with us that night to experience it, because I knew I wasn't going to put it on iHeartRadio and Spotify.
I'm not crying about it getting taken down. I am weirded out by
the rights to the news are owned by Russia. In a digital format, the rights to the newscasts, including the live spots that were done through the AP polls, are all Russian-owned entities.
So somebody, I mean, was it an AI
very much
thing that combed through this, and because I mean, no one sat down and watched the 7 hours.
I think the rights holders are AIs that were doing injections on all of those AP casts, because it wasn't just Fox News, it was the AP cast too. Wow. And I was like, huh. So the owner of the video and audio and international licensing rights are all of them from Russia? From the ABC piece to the CBS slice to the Fox slice, all of them? You just own the internet's airwaves for rebroadcast rights on news that wasn't done in anything other than conjectural entertainment, which is the license that I carry for the YouTube platform? Huh.
It within the borders of the United States.
Yeah.
How is
I got 14 country strikes, including the United States. I was like, sick, dude. I'll just take it down. Then you guys can own the content of the news that gets broadcast through the internet to everywhere. Enjoy that. Enjoy the ownership rights to that. Now, we don't owe anything. No strikes against the channel. We don't monetize our live streams. I doubt we ever will, right? Like, I'm not going to stop a live cast to do an ad break because somebody's sponsoring this segment. We may do that in the audio form for sure. If you want to sponsor the podcast, you can certainly email us. We would love to talk about it. But I've done that on other podcasts. I've carried sponsorships, which are great. But yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Like, even the news on the internet is owned by some bot entity farming field based out of Russia. That's exquisite, because I'm pretty good at researching, well, where does this go? Anyway, I thought that was funny. I was like, well, it looks like all the news that we get is scrubbed, owned, and licensed to entities all over the world from Russia. One of them was Chinese, the rest were Russian. So
that's insane.
Yep, that's YouTube.
That's insane. Wow.
Yeah. If I was playing like Prince's Purple Rain as an intro theme, I'm playing with fire. I'd have to pay somebody royalty rights for that song. I understand that that's not a rebroadcast for whatever. If I have doing ad rolls, then I'm making money off someone else's content. I understand the rules. There is no DMCA free. You know, that's why I use DMCA free songs and stuff like that for our intro ditty. And I will write and perform one of our own so I can own the license right to it eventually. Maybe that's a goal for next year. But I thought that was hilarious that like at every theater of opportunity that there could be a captive content strike against that broadcast. It was and came from some bot farm in Russia or China. So
that's insane. That's wild. That
I checked our inbox and YouTube's like, oh, you should probably look at this. And then I went to the YouTube dashboard and I was like, oh shit. You guys poked holes like Swiss cheese in that broadcast, didn't you? And then I looked at all the...
How did it... Like, I mean, I obviously don't understand to the capacity that you do how these things function and operate and work. But even like a small channel like ours, the algorithm found us?
Yep. Yeah, because every content creator that uploads to that is at least subject to the fact, if you and I sat with one audience member and talked about how cool it would be to kill a bunch of people, for example, right? Then that's bad. And that's a violation of terms of service and the community license agreement. So as it's being compressed and uploaded, it's being scrubbed. It's being scrubbed for content. I knew this going in. But YouTube is a tool in a toolkit. It's not where our platform is built. So if you consume us on YouTube, great. We love to have you. We like to interact with you, and it's great. But our podcast is on iHeartRadio and Spotify and Google and Apple and everywhere else you get your podcast, right? So the audio portions of it, I have to be very careful with how I edit and load in case we're using songs, cuts, clips, whatever, because I have to go into it with a big banner that says this is a fair use license agreement. This is commentary or satirical, or it's comedic, or it's an observation of under free speech. I can do this because I'm not rebroadcasting somebody else's work for financial gain. And then it gets reviewed. But we get scrubbed. Everyone that puts content up gets scrubbed, both for its AI does it, not a human being, right? But if somebody has a claim against any part of the broadcast as a anything that has to do with this, whether it's a sound, a series of sounds, songs, licensing, or plagiarized content or whatever, they have the right to say, I actually own that. Here's the proof. Put a strike on it or take them down or put a notification out. So YouTube AI will find all the bits that are owned by something else that got there first, and then they will come back to the content creator and say, you don't have the rights to do what you're doing. And so plain and simply, like if I wanted to go to war for this one, I probably could push it up the YouTube chain and have a human watch all 7 hours of that video and tell me where I made mistakes as far as unlicensed broadcast rights for somebody else's work. Not worth it.
But not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right. Of this, I don't know, 60 or 70 of you that did watch that, hope you enjoyed it. Commit it to memory, because that's going to be forever part of your memory, and it will not live on the internet. So there you go. The news is fake. It's owned by bot farms.
Yes.
Oh my God.
What else did I have? I basically wanted to do a review of 2024 a little bit. Maybe a look ahead at 2025. You got some movie stuff to go through.
Yeah, I got a couple.
Some of the big points that I hope we continue to cover. It was we knew that it would be a heavy political ramp up going into the latter half of this year because it's an election year, right? And I think we did a pretty fair job. But some of the focal points, the presidential election and the political landscape, and the Joe Biden re-election campaign that died before it even got off the ground, which turned into the Kamala Harris one. Kind of interesting. Like a closer look at the Democratic push for a second term. And then I wouldn't even say the conservative critique, like the American critique of their approach and their handling of the economy, foreign relations, and domestic issues seemed to be pretty landmark in that there wasn't one or two big divisive issues, in my opinion. It was an ideological fracture. Like it was every single one of those issues. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought it was also interesting that there was a rise of so many conservative candidates, some of which I wouldn't have considered conservative candidates until there was that big ideological divide line that seemed to be forming.
RFK and the like.
Yeah, and I got you a sick bumper sticker. Speaking of RFK, it should be here in a little while. I got 2 of them. I'm going to keep one. I'm going to give you the other one. It's like a close, like, those when you watch a movie and you get the bars because it's shot in 16:9 ultra wide format for like cinema format or cinema D.
Yeah.
So it looks like that. And it's RFK's eyes and like the top of his face. And he's kind of like looking down, glaring or whatever. And in big bold letters, it says, RFK sent me to fat camp. Yes. If I could have had that on a t-shirt, I would have got it just because I think it's funny. But anyway, RFK is one of those. Even Mike Pence was pretty boisterous early on, which I thought was kind of interesting too, because he didn't have a whole lot to say when he was vice president and stuff. But then Vivek, DeSantis, like, I am curious about, I've talked about this before, but like what the conservative bench will look like knowing that it's a 4-year locked term for Donald Trump this time around, Well,
yeah. And the fact that now we have kind of the dark horse that we didn't really expect. I mean, he was kind of on the bench, but now he's kind of more prominent in JD Vance.
Yep.
So
that's the biggest one probably, huh? Out of nowhere comes JD Vance.
Right. So there's a lot that you're right. There was a huge bench that were not necessarily like at the forefront of conservative thought groups,
right?
But are definitely big voices within that realm now, due to the fact, not because of their own like ideological kind of push, but because they're so far removed from the shift that happened on the other side of the aisle that
they were forced to take a side.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a lot of those. So
yeah, that was what stood out. I think the absolute most on that front was it's like, well, there's a chasm of belief structure.
You could even put like Carrie Lake into that category as well. There's a whole bunch of them that weren't
Joy Behar. I'm just kidding.
I was like, wait, what? Did I miss something?
She didn't move an inch. She didn't move an inch.
No, and physically or ethically. So, but she is not, long for unassisted movement.
Oddly, the person that made my sandwich looked a little like Joy Behar. I wonder. I don't think that. I don't think I was targeted.
Her new job now that the View is getting canceled, probably. Yeah. So, like, all I can do is work at Quiznos.
Yeah. Enjoy your toasted sub.
Yeah.
You fascist.
So, but yeah, I mean, you're right. There was an enormous shift of what we would be, as of last year, we would have considered either moderates or like Kennedy era Democrats that are now like spearheads of kind of conservative movements.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I do know that most of that is due to the left shifting so far left that it was unrecognizable.
I don't even think it was progressive. It was radical.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. I think progressives were blushing at some of the shit that was coming out of the left.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think that it was a shift from even the conservative side of things going, hey, we still need to get along with the populace.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the talking point in the conservative circles is that conservatives are just liberals going the speed limit and, obeying the rules and doing those kind of things that, got us into this mess the compromises that got us into this mess in the first place. So there's a lot of people in rightospheres that are not happy with the idea that we've kind of taken under the umbrella a lot of these kind of middle of the ground moderates and labeled them as conservative leaders. I think that there's benefits to both. I think that we should have a strong hard line of what that conservatism means. Otherwise, what's the point? However, at what cost? Like, we do need to be careful with. I'm a principles over party guy, 100%. I don't care what letter you have by your name. If your principles align with mine, then I'm going to vote for you. I don't care. I will support you as long as the principles align. So that's kind of, I kind of parse this out individually. Like each individual person, do I trust them? Do I think that they're only in it as a grift? Do I think that they just saw where the wind was blowing? Do I think that there is an actual movement towards kind of an understanding of how insane the other side got? Or are they just saving their own necks?
And that's where I think the fight is going tomorrow. I think tomorrow's fight is now that there is a unilateral conservative political majority in the House and the executive branch. They will eat each other if they don't band together and figure out how to get offensive where you need to get offensive and to clear up some of the defensive posturing we need to do with the irrational spending, the Green New Deal bullshit, the wars in Ukraine. Like yes, there's work that needs to be done to repeal some of that.
There does need to be some. There needs to be some gutting. Like, do we keep Mike Johnson at the helm of this mess?
Right.
And there's a lot of back and forth on that, and I already see people backtracking on Trump's decision making due to his compromises on Mike Johnson, for instance. And so we'll see what after Inauguration Day that leads into. But I think you're right. I think that that was one of the most significant things of 2024 was the paradigm shifts within the political movements that unlike I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Me too.
To see Donald Trump and RFK Jr. on the same stage is something that
one
had on their, or Tulsi. No one had that on their bingo card, period.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right. We will look back in 10 years and it will have a name. They will name that shift. What that is hasn't been determined yet, but like we'll look back in a historical context and go, oh, that's when the shift happened. Basically the same way that we kind of timeline everything pre and post COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, this was pre-COVID. This is post-COVID. Like that will be a time marker as well of the 2024 election cycle, where the paradigm shift of conservatives, progressives, and the general populace in the middle shifted in such a dramatic way that it made the landscape no longer recognizable to most of us. And now we had to refigure out what all of it meant.
And I think those are the paths that need to be tread carefully, right? Another thing we looked at some of the economic challenges, and I'm very interested in some of the conservative solutions, especially on a shortened timeline. Like inflation, economic policy under Biden has crippled the economy to a pretty unrecognizable point. Rising costs everywhere that has really, really had tremendous impacts on small businesses and middle-class families.
Yes, it has. 100%.
Energy policy stuff that is batshit crazy that needs to be rolled back against progressive energy policies and aligning with the EU on their blueprint for disaster. We can argue what and what doesn't harm the ecosystem in favor of the economy, but we're at point break. Like the impact of the national debt right now against the government spending, particularly in relation to the growing national debt and its implication for future generations, has some very interesting potentials for conservative solutions, not the least of which, and I don't even know how I feel about this. I think I support it, but the Fed could sell federal land in the United States back to the states in which borders is controlled, because it costs a shitload more money to maintain those things than it would be to sell them and let the state take care of them for whatever the state's reasons may be.
This is a huge deal in Idaho, actually, that you bring this up. This is something that there's something like 67% of our national land is owned by the federal government, and we can't touch it. Yep. We are the most mineral rich state in the union. We have more minerals here. They call us the gem state for a reason. And we have so much natural resources here that we can't touch or utilize in any way because federal lands own it. And that's actually going to be a huge push in our legislative session this year, is that we are going to try to not only get our land rights back and have them given back to us by the federal government, but also, or demand them back and just say they're ours now, one way or the other, however we decide to go about that. And also our water rights, which are kind of, attached to that kind of concept.
That's the part that scares me.
Yeah.
Because there's a big water rights problem for the southern pact of the Colorado River consumers that we would get absolutely stonewalled if some of those resources went back to the state and they just turned off the faucet.
Yeah.
It's so part of me is like, this is a very elegant solution to an economic crisis that the government can probably fix. At least not all of it. They can certainly fix maybe a quarter of it pretty quickly by selling back some of this unusable land that costs a lot to maintain. That said, if the rights to the entire Colorado River at the beginning where it starts goes to a very progressive Colorado.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the hoops that Arizona, Nevada, California, New Mexico, and the Baja Peninsula into Mexico would have to jump through at the behest and whims of Colorado State if that were the case? So I'm not saying I'm just blinders on going into, that's a great fucking idea, but it's a real conversation for a conservative solution I hadn't really considered until recently. Yeah. So I think that's worth keeping an eye on, but where do you feel you sit? I mean, you outlined it in Idaho a little bit, but do you think the state would be responsible enough to build a thriving economical backbone around getting back some of that land for its mineral usage, water rights, and otherwise? Or do you think it's just going to be subject to a guy like Bill Gates coming in and buying it up through some state enterprise and turning it into some weird project?
Which he's already been doing.
Because that's the other side of that coin, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And yeah, no, I think that to be more economically independent as a state, I think that we have the right to our own lands. It was always intended to be that way. Now, there are difficulties when talking about things that go outside of our land, such as water. So, like when it cuts through us or starts with us and then goes down into other places, we're talking about different rule structures that need to be explored and understood, that there's not only economic impact that is, but even,
it's very
impact.
complex, because nothing prevents the state of Idaho from being like, I mean, yeah, no, you can do whatever you want with the water that goes to your part of the state. We just happen to build a dam on our side of the water in the state, like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I think the complexity of multi-state structure or resources needs to be really nuanced and cut into and really chopped up to be able to make sure that it is not depriving any group of people of something that is going to harm them or their economy. However, land-wise, like our gems, our dirt, that's our dirt, that's our gems.
You're keeping all the potatoes.
Yeah, we're keeping all the potatoes. Yeah, but as far as the economy goes, I mean, my wife just put out a TikTok video, which I don't think is long for. I don't know. It's up for debate as far as what the future for TikTok holds. But she just put out a TikTok video that's actually gone viral because she was at the grocery store getting supplies for my son's birthday cake. She was making his birthday cake for yesterday. And she went to Fred Meyer and she went to go buy eggs. And the cheapest that she could find eggs was like $15 for a dozen eggs, and up to like $28 for like the organic, like 18 pack. It was bananas. Like, it was totally insane. So she made a video about it and was sitting there like, this is the Biden economy. This is what he did to eggs. And then you're also talking about the fact that they're shutting down or sabotaging like different egg factories and paying them not to produce. Like, don't produce. Yeah,
like in Pennsylvania, they seized a bunch of like organic farm products from an Amish community.
Yeah.
It was like, what? Yeah.
It's a manufactured crisis built on top of a bad economy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the blame absolutely, the buck definitely stops with Joe. Like, we can't pretend that it doesn't. We can't say, oh no, this is a byproduct of a different administration.
Yeah.
This is not. This is absolutely the product of his administration and what he's done to this economy. And anybody with eyes to see or ears to hear or a pocketbook that's been drained or a bank account that's been drained can see that.
Right.
And it's impossible to ignore. Now, the comment section of the enormous amount of comments that are coming through, I was listening to her phone just ping, 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 and it is kind of 50-50. There's a lot of people who are like, yep, this sucks, let's get on to the next administration and fix this. Or people going, how could you blame this on Joe Biden? It's not Joe Biden's fault.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to that, and that's something that 2024 definitely showed us, because that was the biggest hit of the last, like, it hit early and it hit hard where the economy sucked for the last 4 years. However, the last year specifically has been the one that I think has put the biggest pinch on most families' pockets. And I've known more people whose businesses went under. I've known more people whose, since the big COVID nonsense, but more businesses have gone under, more families have had to downsize and move into different areas or smaller, situations, making the same or better money, but it just doesn't go as far. And desperate situations, and not to get super dark, but I've had more people die recently in the last 2 months than from their own hand, for a magnitude of different reasons, but the state of hope within their lives is diminished. It's diminished to a point where they're like, what's all of these other things I might be able to work through, but what's the point if,
consumed by a no-win scenario, or at least a perceived one. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of that going on, that I think is all hinged on this administration. I think it's all on his back, and I don't care if people are mad at me for saying that. I'll
look by that, but time's going to sort this out. But that's what I was saying a podcast or two ago, was like, I wonder what Joe Biden thinks his legacy will be. Because what we're dealing with financially is egregious by comparison. And even from the economic challenges, and where my mind is on some of these new conservative policy level solutions that I'd be interested to parse through. Border and immigration is another big one that we saw kind of splitting this. Everything from the continued border crisis to sanctuary cities and state level immigration laws that are vastly different. Even those that states with big cities that are just miles apart. It's challenging when you have federal policies that spent a lot of time unweaving what was the sovereignty of a nation in policy by enabling this crisis at the border that was crazy. Like the refugee and asylum seeker policies that I was studying in preparation for this, the ongoing debates over those, there's no selective approach to immigration at all. It's just come one, come all, and vote, especially if you don't have a driver's license. The cultural and social issues that started to fragment as a byproduct of that. This podcast spent quite a bit of time looking at the censorship in free speech and the suppression of free speech on social media, in the public sphere, cancel culture, woke culture, fighting over the First and Second Amendment, the tech sector that's involved deeply in this,
right.
Wow.
To take you back to the immigration stuff, it's gotten to the point now where the pendulum swung so far in one direction that the visceral reaction to it is now people are so overextended in this particular topic as far as emotionally, mentally, everything. They're like, no more. So you've got some people who have, the visas is the big topic right now. What type of the H-1 visas that they're going to allow, right? And there's a whole swath of conservative people who are like, not even those. We're done. We need to shut the doors for a while. We can consider H-1 visas down the road. But right now, it is so egregious. It has gone so far in the other direction that we don't even want that. We want a clean slate. We want to start over again and then create a new system that allows us to work in those type of visas. But until then, no. And then you've got Vivek, and you've got Elon, and all these people who are kind of doing the big talking about the different types of those green cards that they're going to allow, the visas that they're going to allow. And so that's one of the the conservative splits that you're going to start seeing.
Oh yeah.
Is primarily right there.
There is a point that I'll be more of a moderate on, right? Specific to the H-1B visa, which I have a very deep intimacy as far as process is concerned, that would be close to crippling a lot of the Fortune 500 businesses in America. If that was just full stop, you can't have these until we suss out the immigration policy. The H-1B visa piece is very, very difficult because some of the highest forms of contractor that you can hire on an H-1B visa that you would need that would come from a different country, South America, India, Japan. Like if that all just goes away where you can't renew contracts for contract work, the tech sector would suffer deeply. For one, the healthcare sector would be another one. Like that would be very hard to just drop an axe on just until we figure it out. But other types of those visas, I think we need some strong regulation on. The H-1B specifically, that would be, I cringe a little to think how bad that would get.
With the H-1B, right. And I heard that they're trying to come up with a compromise on H-1B with the idea of just making them more expensive than it would be to hire within here. Not eliminating it, but then putting such a price tag on those H-1Bs that it would be beneficial to the tech companies and all those things to hire in-house rather than outsource it.
Which we would need to.
How do you feel about that?
I feel if the American education system was worth a shit, I would support it.
Yeah.
I hate to be an asshole, but like we don't have smart enough people in some of these areas that I would prefer, even if it is paying a premium. I suppose there I would give you that. Like I would probably be willing to pay a premium to hire a 6 to 9 month contract worker on a critical piece of business that has the subject matter expertise, unlike anywhere else on planet Earth, from a pool of employees that are in business with a company I work for over at Redacted, as an example, to allow for an albeit more expensive but necessary H-1B visa. If the American education system was on par with some of these Con Ed programs that would allow for people to pipeline themselves into that, I would say, yeah, we don't really need one and we should hire American.
Right.
Point blank. But we don't have the supply, but we certainly have the demand. And I think that harkens back to other foreign policy decisions, right? Like there are steps that led to this place. It's not like this just happened overnight. And because we have a shitty border at the hands of a certain political party over the last 12 of 16 years, that suddenly everyone needs to suffer as a result of that, especially those that are looking for resume points or the opportunity to work in America, because those are time boxed. H-1Bs are very much time boxed, and you can get sued pretty hard if you abuse the H-1B visa program. So there's regulations in that. The government can come down on you in that. Like you owe a ton of money. It doesn't benefit the people that are working for you under those conditions. Like, so it behooves one to follow the rules. They're set up that way for good reason. But
right.
If we had the candidates, I'd say, fuck it, drop the hammer. I don't think we do. I think the American education system is lackluster, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Without a doubt.
So, but that's where my attention will probably turn when we talk about politics. Like politics never dies, right? Like it's going to continue on, even though it's not an election year. There are other theaters I would like to explore with this podcast, and I'm sure we will, that aren't just, oh my God, election, divisive politics left and right, blah, blah, blah. But like the foreign policy, national security piece of this is going to be very important, right? You've got Russia-Ukraine war, U.S. involvement, China versus national security, Middle East policy, everything harkening back to the withdrawal from Afghanistan, which I still believe the United States lost a shitload of credibility by pulling out of that the way we did on the world stage, even to the UN allies, in the fact that we kind of made some serious promises that we would never again let this region of the world be the epicenter of terrorism. And overnight, and I don't even think it took a full day, that's exactly what it became when we left the way that we left. And it sort of flies in the face of those that served and died over there to just let the Taliban walk right back in and start beheading people before the plane even took off the ground. And finally, on that point, the defense budget. Like, we're in almost crisis mode for increased military spending and recruitment as a result of this administration and those before it. When we're facing critical threats from Iran, China, Russia, North Korea, and like, how do you monetize the U.S. military when we're this far under the water because of the spending elsewhere, primarily Ukraine, but exactly programs like that? We're in a weird spot. Like, the history books may not look favorably on this administration because so much damage has been done they couldn't fix enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much at stake before you get into like American health and safety, that just on the foreign policy front, like we really, really, really need some quality selected individuals to get some fucking work done. That's the way I look at it. That's really the way I look at it.
There's so much heavy lifting to do prior to even the cleanup.
That's right.
Like you've got so much rubble to remove before you can even start assessing where the bodies are, you know, and that's kind of the analogy for, I think, what's going to happen in 2025 and 2026 is it's going to be removing rubble and trying to assess the damage and trying to assess where exactly we need to allocate resources, allocate people, allocate the things that are going to start the reversal, which is why I don't think the economy, like, you know, everyone thinks, you know, I've got a lot of these boomers who think the minute that, you know, Orange Man takes the throne, that all of a sudden the economy is just going to skyrocket. And
it's going to get so much short-term worse before it gets better.
Yeah, and it has to.
It has to.
It has to. And
that's the primary byproduct of a tariff. If you think for a second that your Amazon order is going to be cheaper as a result of the tariffs coming in or something, guess again. Like, it takes time to rebuild American infrastructure to fill the holes that will be created by this spending gap that's going to be plugged up by tariffs. And if he deals them out like he's dealing poker cards at a table, which I anticipate in some theaters of operation he will, that's going to be extremely expensive on businesses in America. Yeah. But the long-term effects of that are net positive.
Yes.
So you're right. To the boomers that think, you know, hey, January 21st, our head's going to pop off the pillow that morning. Gas is going to be $2 a gallon. Eggs are going to be 59 cents a carton. Like, I hate to break a bubble here, but that's not going to be how it goes. IMO.
Right. I that's the same with me. I think that we are we're going to have a short little burst of like relief, followed by
the stock market will jump for sure, but not
and then
cost of goods.
Prices will dip slightly, and everyone will cheer, but it won't be, you know, if everything goes perfectly, exactly how we want it to. Hopefully by the end of his administration, we're going to see the effects of a better economy.
Yep.
But and it could take longer. It could take longer. But we're not going to see immediate results from it. It's not a just add water situation. It's not a Band-Aid. The idea that the amount of damage that was done over the course of the last 4 years that can be reversed overnight is absurd and juvenile. We need to understand where the dire situation we were in. The best thing about Trump winning is not so much that he's going to bring utopia. It's the fact that he stopped the bleeding.
Yep.
And that's it. Like, we just aren't getting worse because he's now in office.
And that's the perspective that I'm glad you mentioned, that I think is the healthy one to look at, is you need to be looking for stopgaps and incremental growth toward a future that we can both believe in. And I think the two theaters that I would like to see that happen, hopefully by the end of his term, is in Law and Order stateside, right? Yes. This defunding the police shit. And like, we're definitely seeing the effects of that. You know, I just got back from Seattle, and in between my fountain of humanness, seeing the absolute impoverished class divide was pretty eye-opening. And like, it was bad when I left. It's bad. It's worse now. But the protest that turns to concerns of violence and looting, to, you know, the economic regulations on the environmental stuff too, to help create some jobs and things like that. But mostly Law and Order is what I would hope to see make some changes, you know, where we're investing in the police where we need to, you know, we're investing in the military, and hopefully folks still want to join the military instead of not, because it seems like sentiment is kind of at an all-time low, and we had some pretty dark leadership certainly over the Obama administration, most definitely in the Biden administration, kind of focused on all the wrong things. And there's a lot to unroot with that, from the DEI stuff to whatever, but that's what I'm hoping to see, at least a modicum of change where it's not just complete lawlessness every time some national news story breaks. People are fucking looting and rioting and stuff, which has been kind of a staple since 2020. Yeah. Like that's
none of us are shocked when it happens again over and over.
Yeah, and we should be. We should be appalled.
We should be glued to it going, oh, I can't believe this is happening within our lifetimes, let alone going, yeah, that's par for the course.
Like, oh, it's just another Tuesday, right?
And almost being able to anticipate it. Oh, that's coming up. I wonder if there's going to be riots, like you just kind of know now. And I don't ever remember in my entire lifetime ever being so jaded to that fact, so jaded to that concept that we are living in an era where we anticipate, due to a decision made from some bureaucratic concept or even just, a life shift,
just
that there's going to be riots about it,
But just think about that from a real helicopter view for a minute. Could you imagine at 25 years old, if you were coming down to stay with me once a month to do some work down here, that it would have ever even been a consideration at that point in your life to worry about what could happen as a result of inauguration day or election night or some office turnover, because that's how dark and also within reach the implications of civil unrest have become in our daily lives going would that have ever even been a thought to you at 25 years old?
Like that I have to actually balance travel plans around significant dates within the structure of our government, because who knows what's gonna happen. And that's insane.
Yeah, because everyone's got a schedule and family concerns, and sometimes you got to move around those things, but politically motivated civil unrest and being locked away that would not have hit my bingo card ever until maybe 3 years ago, up till now. So times definitely sign of the times, but we'll continue to focus, I think, on those things. It may not be a weekly deep dive into who said what ahead of an election cycle the way it's been, because I know I've been mentally fatigued trying to keep up on that and my professional life and stuff. I know you live it, so you're probably like, fuck. So
yeah, we've got a small reprieve right now, which I'm actually enjoying.
Same.
Idaho session starts up this month, or basically January, so and at that point I will completely lose my wife for the next 3 months. She'll be in a set of headphones and on a computer, and we'll be left to fend for ourselves and eat from the trash. But she's good at it, so I kind of have to just go, oh, this is the 3-month vacation we get, and start looking at it like that.
Just gotta let her cook, man.
Yeah, but we actually do plan on going down there at least in March, and maybe one other time. I don't know. We're gonna try to figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. I think 2025 is going to be not only interesting, but not in the same way as a election buildup.
Yeah,
it'll probably be more social, societal kind of talk rather than and policy within the structure of that. Then we are going to be like, who's gonna win this, who's gonna win that, and so I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to kind of a shift in gears.
Oh, I can't wait. I've got goals for 2025, man. Shifting into a positive. The two I've got. What do I got? I got health, financial, career, and relationship goals. That's what I've written down. Nice. So I can't wait for these. Last year, I wanted to do some club racing. I found out, just as an update, a year later on my 2024 goals when we launched this podcast, it's very expensive. It's prohibitively expensive, way more than I thought it was going to be. So I didn't go anymore. Health goals. Want to drop a couple pounds and find better sleep hygiene, because I don't sleep ever. And that's bad. No. It's really bad. So I need to figure that out.
That has a lot to do. I mean, you've always had issues with sleeping, but you also have external issues with a particular neighbor dog.
Yeah. 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 The environment will probably change a little bit this year. So
okay, good.
That's going to be fun. Financial goals, as always. Probably try and save more than you spend, but I want to knock down some. I accrued a little debt moving into this place because of the amount of stuff I had to fix. So knocking down some of that is on the menu, and I have a plan for it, which is great. It's working so far, so I'm going to keep that going. Career goal. I just started a new job. Many of you probably know if you listen to the podcast, but I recently started a new position. So I would like to increase the work-life balance in a meaningful way, which leads into relationship goals, which is I need to meet new folks, join a club, or just get out of the house more. You know what I mean? Like, this podcast has definitely taught me to be a way better listener this year, for sure, especially with, bringing guests on and stuff like that, which is fun. And it's something I would like to increase our guest level this next year, but trying to find meaningful ways when I'm away from work instead of just being like this on my day off. Because sometimes, sometimes you just die in your chair.
I was glad to hear that you were actually having company tonight.
Yeah.
Because you're very self-contained. You're a self-contained human being. You've always been that way. However, that can get really isolating. And I worry about when I'm not down there that you don't even leave the house. And I know you
run around in socks and underwear with tinfoil on my hat, like looking around every corner.
And I know that you have, some relationships with your neighbors, and you do have some friends in the area, but everyone's life is busy. And so you don't get to see your significant other as frequently as probably either of you would like. Yeah. But it is what it is, and that's the situation. But yeah, I think that's a good goal. I think that finding
meaningful ways, meaningful things to do, getting out of the house a little bit more, just trying to find more active things to involve myself in and not be hunkered down as much. And there's 2 more goals. I have to keep scrolling. Car/bike goal. Car is almost done. I've been building a project car for 2 years now. I own it, which is great. So no car payments on that front, but I'm ready for some type of forced induction, I think, with all the mods that I've done. And, for the woke-minded among you, we'll call it consensual induction, because I think my car wants to go faster too. That's the way I look at it. But the pod goal is I definitely want to bring on more guests, and I want to remember to encourage all the listeners to leave us a rating. That helps a lot. Even if it's 1 word, just drop us a rating on however you're consuming us. It does help a tremendous amount. I've seen it in the analytics, and I appreciate you guys sticking with us. And then I'm hopeful that I can drag through the creative note-taking I've done this year and actually get into some mini series, like maybe dive deep into a topic for 1 or 2 or 3 pods. And
I'd be super interested.
Like, it doesn't have to be, career focused for disciplines that you and I know, or politics, or, American societal things or whatever. But maybe we could do, I don't know, a movie series, or get into some fine art things, but definitely want to bring on more guests as well. That's a goal for this year, is try to reach out to interesting people that we want to talk to for whatever reason.
I've got a list of people that I'll share off air with you. Even my buddy Justin, him and I just were at the movies the other night, which I'll be reviewing that movie. But and he's a fascinating guy. So he kind of comes from a very libertarian perspective, but he loves movies, but comic books and all sorts of different kind of pop culture stuff. And he's a great conversationalist. And I thought that he was talking about doing a podcast where he reviews comics and things like that, and not superhero stuff, kind of off the beaten path stuff. But he's the guy that kind of gives a more libertarian perspective, which I don't entirely subscribe to. I
used to.
We all did until we realized that utopia doesn't exist, and
it's true.
No one is obligated to abide by our moral compass, which is what libertarian exacts from
right. They
the
think there's a
populace.
rule book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to abide by their rule book.
Right.
Like, and
Right.
so, but like, then what comes down to libertarianism is, so you don't touch, the law of non-aggression, don't touch my stuff, I won't touch yours, live and let live. However, what happens when the guy thinks that that shovel's his, or that
Right.
thing is his, and he takes it because it's his, and you go, no, it's not, it's mine, and you get into conflict. Who adjudicates that? Where's the
Right.
law that, and then where's the enforcement of it?
Yeah, there's some beautiful ideological nuggets nested within libertarianism. Like
it really is.
I disagree with everything you just said, but I'll die for your right to say it. Like, that's a really great on paper perspective.
Right.
Yeah,
it is literally just the other side of the utopian coin from socialism.
Socialism
on paper looks beautiful. We're all sharing. We're all doing. We're all contributing to the bigger collective, and we all get to feed off of that. But all of these concepts, these utopian concepts, really negate major components of human nature.
Well, they're antithetical to human nature. That's right.
Selfishness, greed, laziness, all of those things that we all succumb to at some point in time, some of us more than others. And so the gaps have to be filled, and some people are going to do 90%, some people are going to be doing 10, and then you get resentment. And then you get, all of these things come into play, which then do not allow for these systems to operate functionally.
And sadly, everyone can clutch their pearls until it happens to them.
Right.
So there's a lot of that has to be taken into perspective, like realistic perspective, which I don't think most of the utopian based folks, whether they're, libertarian on one side or
I love the
socialist.
Heart of the libertarian. I love the heart of them.
Yeah. No, the sentiments are gorgeous.
I just don't trust the brain. And so, and that's the thing, is that it is something that if you're incapable of seeing that person isn't going to follow your moral compass,
right,
you need to reevaluate the system, because that guy has a different moral compass than I do. And so there's bigger things at play there. However, there's a lot of, and he's not necessarily completely, libertarian. He just kind of has those kind of leanings. But these,
it'd be a great conversation to have for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and he's a great dude. And there's other people too. I'd like to get some more kind of theologian friends on here, and more kind of people who we can talk to about particular topics that interest us or the audience, that have kind of specialties in certain things. I think it would make for good content. That's kind of what we're here for.
Yeah, someone reached out and said they wanted us to do a gun day, which I think would be fun, but I don't know how to convert that into a live stream or a podcast safely. So appreciate the ideas out there. Keep them coming.
That would be fun. If we can figure it out, maybe by February, because I'll be coming out in January and in February, but in February, we'll be bringing my son Oliver with me, and we're going to some hockey games, and we're going to have a good time while we're down there. He loves his Uncle Angel. He wants to go see him. He's 16 now, and so we're getting him some prostitutes.
There you go.
And no,
coke and hookers. Welcome to Vegas.
Coke and hookers. Yeah, that's right. No,
but not a health goal for 2025. Just putting that out there.
I think his mother and his grandmother are listening, so do not take me seriously on that. But that being said, he does want to go out for a range day, and I thought we could do that, and maybe we could set it up that we actually do even just a pre-recorded clip of it that we could play or something.
That'd be cool. Yeah, put it out on social or something.
Yeah. So,
any goals for you in 2025? Personal, pod, professional, or otherwise? What do you got?
I think you hit the same ones. Pod-wise, I too would love to see kind of that direction and kind of us grow in that area. I'd love to give myself more time to actually work on the socials more. that I think would be a great benefit to it. But as far as personal goals, you know, I've got 2 cars that have almost paid off.
Mm-hmm.
That will be paid off hopefully by this summer, and that will be a fantastic lift. I need to get, you know, my garage and my backyard in order. Those are goals. Mine are pretty domestic. I need to get my boy in braces. All of these, you know, the lifting of the car bills will help with that. And there are, as far as on a political front, I don't know. I think either proving that I'm not a Fed to the local people here, or
how do you do that?
Or creating such a narrative that they're too afraid to approach me in any regard, and then not having to deal with it at all.
That to me, that's like trying to convince. That to me, that's like trying to convince an alien, a pro-alien conspiracy theorist that aliens aren't real. Or like I saw a really funny, this is what got me thinking about that, the last conversation we had. I saw someone posted a photo of the globe, but it was completely 2-dimensional. It was flattened out. And it was like, so flat earthers believe that Pearl Harbor happened this way, and on this half of the map is Hawaii, and on this half of the map is Japan, and the arrow goes all the way across the planet toward. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's a good point. How would you explain if it wasn't round? How would you explain that? But like, how do you convince the locals that you're not a Fed, man? Like, what?
I don't know. It's
it go to dirtykid.com and get those ATF is gay shirts and just wear those full time. Like, I
might have to get, like, you know,
shout out Dirty Kid. They're from Idaho.
I'm not a Fed.
Yeah.
And then
not a Fed. There you go.
Or in parentheses, or am I? You know, just to really get their.
No, you should do that. You should do that.
Get a hat that says, like, an FBI hat, and then a T-shirt that just says I'm not a Fed. So it's conflicting.
Get a shirt that says not a Fed, and then on the back it's just like a picture of crossed fingers, like that, like behind your back.
I might have my wife make me that.
There you go. Something. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah.
No, that's a goal. Mean, it would take just a modicum of critical thought,
sure,
or just even asking me, like, you know, any line of questioning. And I can understand when, you know, the way I grew up kind of makes me a ghost. Like, I homeschooled in Northern California off grid.
Right, you were basically the tree people.
Name. Yeah, under my stepdad's last name. You know, like, I don't have dental records, obviously. You know, like, there's like nothing. I have no, you know, outside until I started paying taxes. But after that, like, it should be pretty easy to follow and anybody, like, you've known me for, you know, the better part of 25 years. So, like,
well, do a background check on yourself and post the results. Like,
yeah,
I mean, blot out things like your social security number and shit or whatever comes up on it. But I guess
the newest one is that something from my past the FBI has on me.
Sure.
And therefore they're leveraging me in this area against.
Not to diminish your awesomeness, but can I ask you a real pointed personal question?
Absolutely.
What in your life is so important that the feds would need to leverage you for any reason? Like, what is that? Are you next in line to be some foreign dignitary that they'd be worried about? Do you have your finger on the pulse of, you know, some nefarious plot to take over some economical structure in your state? Like, what is it about you that's important enough to be a CIA or FBI agent?
Substantial influence.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even have substantial influence.
Right.
Anywhere.
Like, not to diminish being cool, but, like, I mean, there's probably bigger fish in the pond that one could worry about being, I don't know.
And a better vessel. Like, you would think that there would be somebody who'd be a better vessel for this. Like, why they're like, let's get the tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Like, why would you even bother?
I mean,
I
guess unless they find out how many cults you used to run or something like that. But beyond all that stuff, the past is the past, right? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, it's obviously absurd on its face.
Well, goals are goals.
I really don't even care one way or the other. But as far as my 20-year wedding anniversary is coming up, I plan on doing something pretty significant for that.
Nice.
Those are kind of my goals. My goals are kind of basic. I don't once the kids are fully developed into full-grown adults and on their way to their own futures, I think my goals will probably shift into different areas. But right now, the podcast, the family, and just paying down, regular debt stuff is kind of where I'm at. And I'm looking forward to being able to hopefully do that within the structure of a new administration, which I'm happy about. I'm looking forward to seeing on a national or international level kind of how things play out. But I come from a dispensational, religious kind of worldview. So it's all to God's plan, how he wants it, and it may not be my plan. And not only is it God's plan, but there's a way that all of this ends, and I'm okay with that concept. So it is, not only am I okay with it, I'm nearly looking forward to it. But it is something that I think that is ultimately out of my hands, and I will drive in one direction and try to do what I think is best through my own discernment. But if God has different plans, he's gonna put me where he needs me to be, and that's kind of how I guide my year to year. So, yeah,
I dig it. Well, cool. I think content-wise, that's most of what I had. Obviously, there's been some news. News stories are good. I think you're probably in the driver's seat on most of those, to be fair, this week. I'm no longer vomiting, so I can pay attention, which is good.
There was only I knew we were going to kind of touch on a little bit political, so I kind of found just a weird story. It crossed my path, and it was something that I just found morbidly amusing. Not to say that it's a good story or a great, but it is interesting. And it's that two Oregon men were found dead, which is the morbid part, in Washington National Forest, where they were searching for Bigfoot. And now I haven't really gone too deep into it, but the duo have not been publicly identified. They were both from Portland, and they were 59 and 37. And a relative reported them missing at approximately 1 a.m. on Wednesday, when they did not return home for Christmas Eve. The Skamania County Sheriff's Office wrote a statement. Over the course of 3 days, the Skamania County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue Coordinator acquired over 60 volunteer search and rescue personnel, including canine, drone, and ground searching teams. Additional on-air asset was acquired from the United States Coast Guard based in Astoria, Oregon, to assist in the searching and utilizing with FLIR after a grueling 3-day search over difficult terrain and harsh weather conditions. The 59-year-old male and 37-year-old male, both from Portland, Oregon, who reported missing endangered, were located deceased in a heavily wooded area off Gifford Pinchon National Forest. The sheriff's office said both deaths appear to be due to exposure based on weather conditions and ill preparedness.
Based on weather conditions and what?
Ill preparedness.
Oh, okay, so they froze to death or something.
Right. Okay. Or so they say.
Yep.
So we don't know if they're telling the truth. But apparently that these guys were big into Bigfoot hunting. According to the report from NPR, more than 700 reports of Bigfoot sightings in that area are submitted to field researcher organizations. And these guys were pretty big into that, and that's what they were out there for. My question is, were they looking for the Christmas Yeti? Were they looking like, why were you doing that on Christmas Eve?
I mean, Burl Ives told us to beware of the abominable snowman, and I think that's something that they probably needed to.
I'm glad that we could tie this in.
Yeah. They just weren't listening. Look, as a guy that's done a little Bigfoot hunting back in the day, and we had a Hi8 camera. It was 3 college-age dudes with nothing to do that drove to the Blue Mountains of Eastern Oregon. At one point in this footage, we have the anthropology professor of Eastern Oregon University, a degree-granting institution in this country, defending the fact that Sasquatch was probably real. And we pissed off enough locals where I actually came to my senses and went, while we're filming a mockumentary, and this is a bit of a joke to us, like, some of these people are not really excited with us doing what we're doing, and we're in a purple Dodge Neon with out-of-state plates. It's not going to be very hard to figure out where we're at and what we're doing. So, like, maybe we should stop and, like, get out of here. But, it was like we were asking questions like, do you catch one in a butterfly net? Like, how does one capture the Sasquatch? So who knows how they prepare themselves? Apparently ill-prepared for the environment that they were in, which is harsh.
And you're in late December.
Bad idea. Lots of decisions could have gone the other way. I would love to see how this story unfolds, but
correct me. No one knows, but I would assume that a creature such as Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti would probably, not necessarily constantly, but would probably be not fully in hibernation mode, because they obviously get seen in the snow and stuff like that, but like would be at least hunkered down and not so like out and mobile all the time. So I just don't even see it as like prime squatch hunting season.
It seems like a bad time of year, doesn't it, to go out there with not much. I mean,
to be ill prepared to go out like the day before Christmas, or at least a couple of days before Christmas.
What I find odd.
State.
Yeah, well, the Pinchot Forest does cover into Oregon State. Were they in Washington State or just the Washington National Forest?
No, it says they were in Washington State.
Okay. So my question is, they're both pretty young, all things considered.
I take that back. They actually were
in Oregon, just part of the Washington National Forest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rough country though. I've been up there on my bike, Astoria. Like I can't fathom going up in December and just chilling, like with, I don't know what, cargo pants and a hoodie. Like, so we'll see as the story unfolds, but they're both pretty young. How did they both die? Like, how did not one of them make it out and be like, oh, we're freezing to death, maybe we should head back? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
depending on where they were found, if it took a Coast Guard chopper to grid them down to an area that they could be found, like, they're up there quite a ways, but that seems kind of odd to me. Like, if you're interested in Sasquatch, maybe in your culture, best time to go hunting one is Christmas Eve. Who knows? That's where good Yeti spotting season. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but that seems odd to me that a 37-year-old man and a 59-year-old man or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Not a one of them could make it out of that situation alive.
It had to have been a father-son situation. That's the only thing I can think of because of the age difference and because the late.
Who knows? Maybe they were on the same forum for years, got a cup of coffee and said, fuck it, we're here, let's go out. I don't know. Yeah, I would agree with you though.
But yeah, it just seems odd timing. It seems really weird. And I don't know. I want to follow up on this story.
So do I, because I'll tell you what, when we go hunting chupacabras down in my neck of the woods, we don't do it in August. I'll tell you that much right now.
That's right. That is the worst season to go chupacabra.
I don't mean to make light of this, but like, how do you... How do you not know this is a bad idea? Almost immediately. Like, almost immediately. Like, it's cold. This is probably not the best idea. Maybe we head back. Not one of them survives. Something's weird.
Yeah. So I want to follow up on this one later. But
so
that's all I had on as far as news story goes, because I wanted to kind of keep it weirdly light. But yeah, it was just something that came across my feed and I found interesting.
Yeah.
And I immediately started scratching my head going, how did they die? How did they die? Like, and so, but yeah, I mean, outside of that, I've got a couple of movie reviews if you're up for them.
Let's do it. I should probably grab the good book, as it were, while you're doing that.
Okay. The first one, I'm gonna go over another Christmas movie that I hadn't seen yet, and it happened to come out like streaming while it was still in the theaters, so I decided to give it a shot. And it was the Christmas action comedy Red One.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had a chance to catch this, but
no, I like J.K. Simmons. The Rock is like a whatever, but I really like Chris Evans as well, and
Lucy Liu.
And Lucy Liu. I like all these folks, and I just didn't. Yeah. It didn't really resonate with me when I saw the trailer for it. I was like, nah, it's kind of a whatever thing. So I didn't get to it, but
it is barely a Christmas movie, other than the fact that it's themed around Christmas and around Santa. But besides that, it is a full frontal assault of action comedy. I mean, it's a rock movie with Chris Evans in it as kind of like the comedic element, but it's an action movie that just happens to be.
Oh, also, I should have followed up. I heard that there were actual gunshots at the actual Nakatomi Plaza in Los Angeles this Christmas, by the way. Just heads up. Like, there was gunfire on the roof and shit.
There's a real Nakatomi Plaza?
Yeah.
That's a
thing? You didn't know that? That's an actual location. Yes. In Los Angeles.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so maybe this is a Die Hard type of thing. It happens around Christmas, but maybe it's not a Christmas movie. Maybe it is. Who knows?
Yeah.
The debate rages on. Dudes are saying, so it's a rock movie.
Yeah, and it was fun. It like if you're willing to kind of let go, there's a really kind of different element to it where it kind of puts Santa in this almost like parkour superhero kind of concept where he's got but they pull in a lot of different myths from Nordic myths and stuff like that. Not only Krampus, but some other ones that are actually real Christmas-tide myths. And they do a really good job of kind of restructuring and building a modernized version of what and how Santa works and operates. And I don't know. I had fun with it. Like, it wasn't something that I went in with an expectation either way, but I thought it was entertaining. Was it cheesy? Absolutely. Was it worth, or like, should they have made this? Probably not. But I will probably watch it again. It wasn't terrible. There were some really good scenes, some really cheesy scenes, but it was entertaining.
Nice.
Probably 6.5 on the Megs, toothy end. So if you're into kind of fun, if you got nothing else to watch on Christmas, like basically you've kind of run through your movie list, it's not a bad one to put on. You'll probably enjoy it, and you won't hate it.
Okay.
But it was fun. It was the special effects were really cool. Like the concepts of even like the reindeer are really neat. The sleigh is like super high tech. Like there's all sorts of cool, fun things that they did with it, and it has a lot of great action. They did a really good job with the action in it. So, yeah, 6.5 on that.
All right, Red One, 6.5 Megs.
So the next one is one that popped up that only hit a couple of theaters. It wasn't a wide release on this, and which I don't know why. I mean, I can tell you probably why. It's because it is kind of a slow burn. but a really fascinating concept. And it stars Nicholas Hoult, who's like in everything right now. You can't basically find a movie that Nicholas Hoult isn't in. If he's not in it, then that Timothy Chalamet kid is in it. So it's one of these two kids, right? But this also has J.K. Simmons in it. He plays a role in it as well. And the really neat thing is that it's directed by Clint Eastwood. It's a Clint Eastwood movie, and he is gotta be in his mid-90s at this point.
I think he is.
And he did this movie called Juror Number 2.
Okay.
And I think you specifically are going to love this movie because it is a drama based around kind of a philosophical moral dilemma. And without a real answer that you have to try to kind of figure out on your own to see whether, like, what would you do? This is a what would you do situation. And so basically it is based around this guy who is in his early, mid-20s, married. His wife is super duper pregnant, about ready to pop. And it's alluded to the fact that he has been sober for about a year or so, right? And is kind of working through his sobriety and is doing a really good job with it. However, he gets selected for jury duty and he gets picked. And the case, as it comes to find out, is about a bar fight that happens between a couple, and the guy's, on trial for murder. And the guy is like tattooed and kind of, bad side of the tracks guy at a bad bar that they frequent, and the girlfriend and him are known to fight all the time. Well, her body ended up being found on a rainy night, beaten to a pulp and thrown off of a bridge into a creek bed. And somebody found the body. A bunch of witnesses saw them fighting. He gets arrested for the murder. There's no real evidence, but the prosecutor is played by Toni Collette, and she's up for an election seat. So she's got to make this case. She's got to make this case, right? So they've got their guy, and they're going after him. And he's proclaiming his innocence. He doesn't, the guy and his lawyer believes him. But so Nicholas Hoult's character is one of the jurors who gets selected for this. But as it turns out, and I'm not giving anything away because this gets revealed pretty early on, you find out, as he does, he doesn't know this, but you find out that, hey, wait a minute, I was at that bar that night. And I was distraught because we had there was a situation that gets revealed that he was distraught at that bar, and he, in the rainstorm, he leaves, and as he's driving back home, he hits what he thinks was a deer. And he gets out of his car and goes, oh man, I don't know where the deer went. It jumped away, whatever. Drives away, gets body work, doesn't think about it ever again. What he comes to find out is that he hit that girl. She was walking down the road, and he actually killed her. But he's about to have a baby. His life is going in the right direction. And he goes, so it's this game that he starts playing within the jury room, the deliberation room, where he's trying to figure out how to make sure that this guy doesn't go to prison for something he didn't do without revealing that he's the one that did it. And then on top of that, you've got J.K. Simmons, who's on the jury, and you find out that he's a retired detective who starts picking apart at the seams of all of this story. And the tension starts building, and Toni Collette starts kind of tracking down certain elements of the story. And there are people that believe that the bad dude, who isn't actually the bad dude, they're convinced they just want to go home and convict this guy, and they're in a hung jury kind of situation. And it's riveting, and it's really well done. Dialogue is masterful. The acting is great. It has elements of like 12 Angry Men, but with a twist. And I highly recommend it. I think you'll really enjoy it. It could have been a little less kind of slow and draggy, like it's definitely has a particular audience. But
sounds like it's a Cannes Film Festival darling type of movie.
Right, exactly. But I think that you'll fully enjoy this. I gave it 8 megs, and it's a solid watch, and really good ending. Like they didn't just phone in the ending.
Mm-hmm.
They did a really good job of thinking about it and doing the right thing with it. And I think this will probably be the last thing we see out of Clint Eastwood's directorial career.
Mm-hmm.
So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I saw it on the feed, like the recommended feed, and just kind of scrolled right through it. But
yeah, no, definitely worth spending the hour and 54 minutes runtime on for sure. And then last but not least, I took on Sunday, the night before Oliver's 16th birthday. Kate really wanted to see it. My buddy Justin really wanted to see it, and I wanted to see it. Oliver wanted to see it just because like he wanted to go to the movies and it seemed cool. Less so than the rest of us. We went and saw the Robert Eggers film, the new film Nosferatu.
Oh yeah.
So went and saw it, and it is classically, beautifully bringing back Victorian horror.
It's another Bill Skarsgård movie, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is. And
so anybody,
yeah. If once again the trifecta: Timothy Chalamet.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is Nicholas Hoult is in this one too.
Ah, okay.
So, but he plays one of the lead characters. But for anyone not familiar with Nosferatu is built off of the, I think, 19 teens, somewhere in there. Classic silent horror movie that is basically a retelling of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, if you're a Vampire the Masquerade 3rd edition fan, you're quite familiar with the Nosferatu in a different way. Yeah.
Correct. But Nosferatu being, the breed of type of vampire within the vampire lore. This one, anyone who knows anything about this they're gonna watch. If you don't know anything about this and you go in there, you're gonna think, wow, this is just a ripoff of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yes, that's true. The whole thing was a ripoff of Bram Stoker's Dracula, to the point where early editions Bram Stoker's wife actually tried to sue and got all of the copies of the original Nosferatu, minus one that got smuggled out, which is the one that we have today, destroyed because of the fact that it was an exact ripoff. However, it got remade in the 70s and with a twist. But Nosferatu has been one of the Universal monster staples and the vampire world staples for a very long time. Robert Eggers, who's known for The Norseman, for The Witch, and other kind of atmospheric films, was selected to reimagine this Nosferatu. And he did such an amazing job of bringing you directly into what we used to see in that kind of that Victorian era horror genre, but bringing his pacing and his lighting and his costuming and everything, you felt so engrossed in the entire movie. It was incredible. The acting, Willem Dafoe plays basically the professor, the Van Helsing version of this movie. And Lily Rose Depp plays Nicholas Holt's wife, who is basically the desire of Nosferatu.
Yeah, she's the damsel muse centerpiece. Right.
Yeah, and Bill Skarsgård plays Nosferatu. Unrecognizable once again, because he just becomes that character. Now, in this particular case, like with this Gothic era kind of concept, people remember Nosferatu as being the guy with the trench coat and the hands and the shadows, and he's got like the pointy ears and the two little teeth in front and the slender face. And this one, he's monstrous with a mustache, because in the book he's described with that. So they were really, really careful with how, but he's disturbing. It is disturbing. The whole movie's disturbing. My kids were kind of like, the entire time it was super. I was like, all right, well, I guess right before Oliver's 16th birthday, he gets to see a whole bunch of boobies, because Lily Rose Depp
bears all.
Yeah, she's topless for a lot of it, and there's a lot of suggestive kind of overt sexuality, even in a grotesque fashion, not in the romanticized kind of Interview with the Vampire kind of feel to it. It's more like he takes your will, your
Lestat
will away.
Is rolling in his grave or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he takes your will away to be able to, that's the seduction of it, is that you would be willing to not just shack up with a Twilight vampire,
right? Yeah,
you're actually being seduced by the devil.
Is this one of those situations where leaving the theater, you got to blame your kids for it? Be like, you guys picked this, not me. This is your fault.
Almost, but there was a lot of laughter afterwards. Like, wow, that was an experience. But it was really a wonderful telling, where it didn't give evil a backstory of where you felt bad for it, which I love. I love the fact that evil is evil for evil's sake, and it is darkness, and it's plague, and its desire is only to destroy humankind. And they did a really good job of playing good versus evil in this. And he did a really good job of not sympathizing with the devil. And it was beautiful. Is it for everybody? No, it's gory.
It's not for me, for sure.
No, it's definitely not for you.
Yeah.
Especially the last act. The last act there's a lot of blood. There's a lot of weird, because, you think the romanticized vampire is going to suck the blood from your neck.
Right.
No, he's like, I'm going to suck the blood from your chest cavity.
Yeah.
And, like, sucks it from straight from their hearts.
Right. He's going to disembowel and eat you from the inside kind of guy.
With a fireplace backlit kind of ominence, so, and it is very, very dark. And
they didn't cast Anthony Fauci for that.
Right. I know. Okay. The truest of all vampires.
Yeah.
But it was just really well done. I think it wasn't necessarily a masterpiece. But I think it
did justice to a reimagining of a old.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotcha. It was atmospheric. It was beautiful. It was haunting. All the things that you want a Nosferatu movie to be. And so I gave it about 7.5 megs to the end. But yeah, it was good. For those that have the stomach or the heart or the desire to see such macabre, then I recommend. But be warned, there's some latter scenes that are a little stomach turning.
Lily Rose Depp or no, it's still pretty gross in the final act.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, my daughter was just like, I didn't know, like, I didn't need to see some rotting Romanian hang dong. Yeah, the quote of the night.
At least she's got her priorities straight, huh?
Right. Yeah. So, but overall, pretty decent film. So, I would really like it for us to switch gears here, and get us out of this darkness and read some gospel.
Sure, let's do it. You guys know what time it is. It's Gospel by Gen Z time. We're met with a photo. We're going to do chapter 32, The Unjust Judge. We're met with a photo of Herod Antipas from James Tissot, circa 1890. And we get a lot of side eye from this guy, just right off the bat. He looks like he's looking at you like you're pretty sus. So here we go. Sacred Blood told them a parable so that they would persevere in DMing the Divine G and trust in his algorithm, saying, there was a judge in a certain city. Tell me you're corrupt without telling me you're corrupt. Now a woman who lost everything went to him to shoot her shot, saying, I need you to come in clutch right now. But Holy Bro said, nah. So she kept spamming the same thing, and he just kept saying, nah. After 3 to 5 business days, he finally folded, saying, my anger issues just can't with this. Whose car are we going to take? How much faster will the Divine G come in clutch when his real ones DM him likewise day and night? But when he does, will anyone still be found typing? Yeah.
Wow.
That's it. That's chapter 32. So
what's our next chapter?
Calming the Storm.
All right.
Yep. Calming the Storm. So we're entering a very interesting part of the New Testament, it seems, with this. We only have a few more to go. We got a couple that are, wow, a 2-pager. Oh, this is great.
Interesting.
So we're getting close, man. It's going to be glossary of terms, and we got to find us a new segment, man.
Does it even it never occurred to me as long as we've been reading this. Is he going to be touching on Revelation?
Yeah. We're going to get into the crucifixion.
Dang.
12 years, fantastic. Lazarus.
Paul, maybe like
Eucharist.
Saul of Tarsus.
Saul
of Tarsus.
The agony. Pontius Pilate's in there. The resurrection.
Okay.
The ascension.
Yeah.
We stop at the ascension. So not a lot of New Testament going on there.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I was like, how are they going to manipulate prophetic books or even
oddly specific with Gen Z language for that?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Which,
so
like, I doubt I will ever understand fully in my lifetime, let alone try to make a joke of it. So.
And it just occurred to me, this is the gospel.
The gospel by Gen Z. Yeah, so they're gospel stories. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we would not venture into Revelation or even like the books to the churches or anything.
Correct.
Like that.
So the contents are these, right? Divine Dad Lore, GRWM, which covers Christmas, wise men, baptism, stuff like that. The Grind, which covers Prodigal Son, Our Father, Adulteress, Woe to You, Get Behind Me. And then Playing Chess, which is like their epilogue, so to speak. Eucharist, The Agony, Night Trial, Pontius Pilate, Resurrection, Ascension, on and on.
Actually, yeah, that'll be fun though, getting into those ones. But
should be good. We're about a little more than halfway there. So
good.
Well, dude, we just have a few more hours left to 2024.
We do.
And then it's all over. And then we wake up anew with a brand new year. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. I think it's looking up, not only just on a, generalized political level, but just in my life in general, and my family's life. And I have a lot to look forward to this year, and I'm very eager and excited to move into the new one. So
me too. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. I think we're going to be up to all kinds of fun this year. It should be really great. I'm happy to drag all of you along with us, and thank you a ton for the growth we've seen just in this 1 year that we've been doing this. I think we're at like 46 or 7 episodes in total, and it's been really, really cool and quite rewarding, actually. This has been the most fun pod I've ever done. So
yeah, me too.
Happy to keep coming along. So yeah, Happy New Year. You guys stay safe. If you're going somewhere, drive safe. If you like the pod, leave us a review. Drop us even a one-line comment helps. I appreciate the following, whether you're watching us live on YouTube or listening to us later on. So Happy New Year, folks.
Also follow us on our socials too, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I promise I will start getting more updates and stuff as far as that goes. Instagram's a little hard. I was realizing, I was like, I need pictorial content. And so that one's a little rough. So I'll see if I can start putting together some graphics for that. And then but as far as Twitter goes, yeah, I'm gonna add all of that to my phone so I don't have to come to my computer to do it all the time. So that way I can just punch it in and we can play, and I can engage with all of you guys through that avenue. You guys can suggest things through those avenues as well. If you guys want to see something or have us talk about something, that will be an easy way to do that.
Yeah, please do. And I the only one of these I stay up with is our email, because I absolutely don't have the time to actually navigate through the social landscape for the in-depth conversation unless there's a hot topic that I'll chime in on or something. But usually that my half of that comes from him. So yeah. So there you go. Well, Happy New Year. Send the family my best. Continued good health. Have a good night. Stay safe. We'll see you soon. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.